For this tutorial, I'm doing this wine glass and wine bottle from an image I found on Unsplash. I really love how this dark matte black of the bottle really contrasts with the wine glass. It's just really pretty. So I'm going to do something kind of different. If you've been following me for a while and watching any of my tutorials, I'm always experimenting and trying things. So I'm going to be using some of this Dr. P.H. Martin's Black Star Waterproof India Ink Matte for the black here. And then I'm going to use this dip pen, which I got from St. Louis Art Supply, to make some of these lines here, and then take a damp brush and kind of let the ink kind of spread out. It's going to be an experiment. And then I'm going to paint over with Scarlet Lake and Alizarin Crimson, and that's permanent Alizarin Crimson, for the wine in the bottle. So this is just going to be an experiment. It may not work. It might be awesome. Who knows? I've already got water drops on here. Oh well, let's get started. I've got some of the Dr. P.H. Martin's Black Star Matte ink in a little dish here, and I'm using a cheap brush. This is by Simply Simmons. Ink is really hard on your watercolor brushes, and I think this was like $2.50, something like that. It wasn't much. So I'm just going to paint with the ink. The nice thing about using permanent ink like this is it's not going to pick up when you paint close to it. When it's dry, it is permanent. Also, the opposite of that is if you make a mistake, it is permanent. Need a little bit more ink over here. Let me turn it around so I can do this part of it. Any white spots? I don't think so. I think I've got it. Let that dry. Of course, with this bright light on, everything is shiny, so you can't really see how awesome it is. It is black. Looks like this could use some more over here. It got kind of thin. I don't think I'll need to do a second layer. We'll see. I don't think so. Okay, wash your brush out quickly. Okay, this is dry, so that's permanent. So I've got my reference photo right here. And what I'm going to do is I've got a little bit of this black ink in here, and I'm going to dip my dip pen in here, just the tip of it, because this dip pen actually holds a lot. And I'm just going to outline the glass here. That's all I'm going to do right now. just following the reference photo. This thing makes such a fine line. Now let's work on, there's all kinds of dark values in here. I'm going to take a damp brush in a second and smooth some of this out, kind of dilute it and let it create different values in here. I'm going to take this damp brush here and just do a little smoothing here and there. Keep dabbing it on a cloth to pick up some of the ink, some of the water. I'm going to drop in a little bit of this alizarin. Let it kind of mix with the ink, because you're going to see some of the red through here. I've probably done too much of the ink, but that's okay. This is just an experiment. I've got a lot of ink in there. Let's see if I can dab some up while it's still wet. This is way too dark up there. Yeah, some of it came up and it left that little pink. That's kind of what I wanted it to do. There we go. Do this again, and this is going to make a little shadow, little shading here when I come with a damp brush. clean the brush off, and let's take some more off. I'm just wiping it and then drying it off on a towel, because I don't want it to be too dark. Let me dab it some here. Okay, now I'm going to do this side. I don't think I have much ink on there. Just a little bit. And then take a slightly damp brush and touch it. Okay, now I need to clean that up. Just swipe and wipe. A new term. Okay, I think that's good. Get a clean part of this paper towel. There, I think that's it. Now, let's do a little bit here. I'm just making this darker area right here. And then I'm going to come after it with a slightly damp brush. Whoa, that's really a lot. That's okay. It's pretty dark right there, so that's okay. About to use a paper towel here. Okay, that looks kind of cool. Like I said, this may not work, and then it might. It's still wet, so I can kind of push that ink over here to that side of the glass. Let's see if I can dab some of this. Oh wow, yeah, I think that kind of worked. Okay, we've got a little bit, this little edge of the glass. Very, very slight. Just tickling it with this damp brush. Come to it, and it's going to spread. That's okay. I'm going to kind of push it back over there. And then let's dab it with a paper towel. Kind of I just went right by the rim, not the rim, but the edge there, and I think I'm there. And then we've got a couple of spots here. This thing really makes a fine line. got a little bit of the ink on this damp brush, and I'm using it for this rim. Seems to be working. Okay, man, that was an ordeal. Okay, now we need to let this dry. I got too dark in there. It's way too dark. Let's see if I can lift some of this. The ink's not gonna lift, but the watercolor will. That's okay. I think that will be fine. When I do the glaze over all of that, I think it will be fine. Okay, let's let this dry. Okay, I've got some paint mixed up here. I've got some permanent alizarin crimson and some Scarlet Lake, and I put just a tad of the alizarin crimson in there. So we're gonna work on doing the wine. So I'm just going over this, even going over part of this splashy part, going all the way to the edge. Let's add some of this brighter color down here at the bottom. Going straight into the Scarlet Lake. While it's still wet, I can fiddle with it. Darker up at the top, so I'm just adding some more pretty concentrated alizarin up here. I'm getting too dark up in there. That's okay. This is an experiment. It's a little darker over here. It looks pretty over the black, that black ink. Okay, I'm going to take a little damp brush here, or actually pretty dry. See if I can do some lifting here where it's going to be brighter. Nope, don't like it. Let's fill it back up. Fill it back up. It's still pretty wet, so it should handle that. I'll just keep adding more dark up here at the top. Adding more Scarlet Lake down here at the bottom. This is such a pretty blend of colors here. I'm just fiddling. This is just an experiment. Let's see, I'm going to try to make some darker lines up here. Kind of extend some of this splashiness since I put too much, it's too dark up there. So I just kind of extended it. Let's take a damp brush. Let's see if we can't get some different values out of that. And keep it light. Let's put a little bit of pink right there, the alizarin. There we go. Pink down here, the alizarin. Lift it up. Paint and lift. Oops, it touched right there. I did not mean for that to happen. That's okay, it's still wet enough for me to fiddle. Okay, I'm going to let this dry and see what I think when it dries. It looks like wine. I wish it were a little darker up there. I may add some, maybe some neutral tint when it dries, but we'll see. Since I lost all the white over here, I made it all just too dark. I've got this paint marker by Flymax that I'm shaking and getting it ready to use. I could use gouache, but I decided to use this paint pen. And I'm just going to go in where I think it needs some lighter values, the white here, because I lost it all. I'm just kind of scribbling here, and then I'm going to take a damp brush, slightly damp, not too damp, and just kind of tickle those edges just to have that white spread just a little. I don't want it to look like I've drawn white lines here. It needs a little bit more in here. And again, slightly damp brush. Let's get that white to spread a little. Okay, I think that's better. Let's let that dry and see if I like it. I'm calling this done. I put a mat around it. It's not perfect right in here, doesn't have to be, but I think it's pretty close. It looks like a glass of wine. There's light shining through. I just really like this. It's and it wasn't too hard. I just fiddled with some ink. Activated the ink a little bit to get a kind of a gradation there. I had to finish up with some acrylic ink here. You could use, I'm not acrylic ink, acrylic pen. You could use white gouache, or if you're careful, you won't need to use any of that because you'll leave the white of the paper shining through. But I'm pleased with this. It's pretty. That looked really pretty in a bar area. I like it. I hope it was helpful, and I hope you experiment with some of these things. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. It means a lot. I really appreciate it.